Okay, so back to our event. So we're going to start with 30 minutes of conversation with Sara. I'm very excited about that. And then we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes doing a fun raffle after we talk with Sara. We have a really generous community, and because of that, we have some donation matching funds to give away to some of our giving circles. So given that, if someone brought you here today as their guest, please take a moment and go ahead and put the word friend into your Zoom name now. So you can, for those of you who don't know, you can do this by going to your name in the participants list and selecting the more drop down next to your name and then clicking rename. If you do that, then we can drop you into this raffle. And at that point, when we get to that point of our time together today, we'll be pulling 3 different names and you can win up to $300 for the giving circle of the member that brought you here. So this is a community-driven movement. It's really based on friends inviting friends. So we thought this would be a fun way to recognize those friends that are bringing in other friends and give back to some of these giving circles from the broader giving circle community with these resources. So fun thing there. And I think Gabby's going to drop into the chat the Zoom link as well, if there's anyone you think should be joining us that you want to send this across to. Okay, so finally at the end, we're going to do 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you have any questions, keep them in mind for that point. And otherwise, if anything comes up along the way, be ready with those for when we get to that part of our event. So I'm now going to introduce Sara. I'm so thrilled that we are here to celebrate this TED Talk. A few months ago, Sara gave the first ever TED Talk on giving circles, and it was part of the broader TED conference that had the theme of a new era. So, you know, it's kind of the perfect idea, perfect theme, I should say, for this talk, because we really think of giving circles as helping to lead a new era of philanthropy, although there's certainly deep history around this whole model, and I'm sure Sara is going to tell us a little bit more about that when we jump into it. And so Sara's role in this giving circle movement is deep. It's long-standing. She's been the CEO of Philanthropy together for the last couple of years, a 5-year global initiative to grow and strengthen the global giving circle movement. And this organization was started with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Kellogg Foundation, and others. So it's really an incredible organization doing really great work. I'm sure she'll share more on that with you. And prior to that, she was still in the Giving Circle movement. She is credited with starting the first Latino Giving Circle network, which has become the largest network of Latinx philanthropists in the United States. She has trained hundreds of individuals on giving circles in 12 countries and counting. And her innovative thought leadership on giving circles has been featured in Forbes Women, SSIR, Alliance Magazine, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, and more. Sara is also a good friend. She launched Philanthropy together the day after we launched Grapevine. So I feel like we've been on this journey together, really hand in hand for a couple of years now. And it's just been a really wonderful part of our work, is the opportunity to collaborate. So I was thrilled when she got to do this TED talk, and I actually got myself a ticket so I could join her along the way at the conference earlier this year. It was just very fun and inspiring. So happy to have Sara here. Sara, welcome.
Thank you so much, Emily. I am so thrilled to be here with all of you, and I see, you know, familiar faces and new faces, and love seeing people from, you know, the Dallas-Fort Worth area and from California. I'll tell you a little bit more about me later, because are we showing the video right now? Yes, I'm going to stop.
Okay, well, perfect. Yeah, let's start with that. We're going to show just a little 30-second clip of the TED Talk video, and then we'll jump into some questions and conversation with Sara from there.
Completely overwhelming.
Sorry, I'm going to start that over again. I was muted.
It can be completely overwhelming to know how to make an impact as an individual. But in a giving circle, you have the opportunity to learn together. Dozens of people engaging in challenging conversations, gaining new perspectives about the issues in their communities. We work across differences and ideologies and viewpoints, but because everyone has an equal voice, we always walk in with something to share and walk away with something learned.
That was Sara during her TED Talk. Just out of curiosity, before we jump in, how many people got to see the whole TED Talk? Just like show of hands, emojis, hands up. Oh, good. Susan, Ryan, great. Lots of you. Okay. Wonderful. Well, for those of you who haven't seen the whole thing, it's a great, 10 to 12 minutes to spend this evening or this coming weekend. But you'll get to hear more from Sara directly first. So Sara, just to start, as people were registering for this event, we asked them if they had any questions. And Katie Limming, who is part of the Scottsdale Professional Women for Good Giving Circle, had a great question that I thought was just the perfect way to start today. And that was, when was the first moment you realized giving back was your calling?
Great question. And I think, this will open up a little bit to talk about myself, right? As you may imagine by now, with the deep accent, I am originally from Mexico City. I was born and raised in Mexico City. And I come from a very large Catholic family. And my family has always instilled in me the concept of service, of giving back to the community, of helping, not only giving back financially, but really being involved in service, right? At the church, in our local communities. My mother is an educator. She has preschool, and she has been having that preschool for, my God, 47 years. And it was just in our DNA. However, of course, I started my career in the corporate world, and I moved to the US 26 years ago for graduate school, and then, following my husband to California. I had my own business for a few years, moved to Dallas, Texas. And at that moment, I realized I wanted to do something different. And with a group of friends in the Dallas area, we started a giving circle without even knowing that was called a giving circle, right? We just wanted to get together. We're already getting together. We're Latinas. We're having fun together, but we wanted to give purpose to our getting together. So we started, pulling our funds and giving those funds to organizations in the Dallas area that were working with Latina women, moms and kids. So when I came back to the San Francisco Bay Area, a good friend of mine said, that you started, it's a giving circle. It's called a giving circle. And there was an opportunity to get connected to the Latino Community Foundation. So I started working there, and I started the first Latina giving circle in 2012, I believe, with a group of 14 women in San Francisco.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sara, for sharing that. And it also I love hearing the way you talk about it, where you were already doing a giving circle, but you hadn't actually heard the term, because this is something you and I have talked a lot about too, right? Where we know we have about 3,000 now giving circles mapped in the directory, but we feel like there are so many more in this movement that are doing this work that don't even really recognize it as that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's such a natural thing to be doing. So just wonder if you could also take a moment, Sara, to share a little bit more on what is a giving circle? What does that mean exactly? Because I think we have some people on the call today who are more, new to the concept. And so what exactly is a giving circle? How would you define it?
Perfect. Well, a giving circle for me, well, and for everybody, is a group of like-minded individuals that get together to create change, right? You start with a group. This is all about people. You talk about your values and your vision of the world and your mission as a group. And then you get together, you discuss issues in your community, you learn about those issues, and you pool your donations together, and you give that collective gift together, right? So that gift gets multiplied by the power of the group. You get more dollars, but also you get more engagement, and you get a group of people that are more educated around certain causes.
Love that. Thank you. when you were talking about getting together with your friends and wanting more purpose around that, one of the terms that we've heard and started to use a bit is networks with a purpose. So it's very, these different groups, either ones that you're already connected to or ones that you're coming together for the first time around a shared purpose. I think it's really resonates with a lot of the people that we're seeing join this movement. So one other thing in your TED Talk that you discuss is how a giving circle model isn't just about me or about you, but it's really about us, about this together as a collective. And that you just shared in your description of a giving circle about doing this together. And so much of traditional philanthropy, though, it seems is more about individual interests, whether it's, impact related or recognition related. And so I wonder if you can share a little bit about the challenges in shifting people away from some of that more individual thinking to this more collective thinking, if any, or does it feel like this has just been a real nascent kind of desire, that really hasn't had the models or the support that we're now trying to unlock?
I wouldn't call it a challenge. I feel that, and maybe, people in the audience, right? Maybe you have already been given or involved in philanthropy by yourself, right? Donating to those causes that you care about. But you decide to be part of a giving circle because you like the social aspect of it. And I feel that especially now after, 2 years, 2.5 years of pandemic, that we feel really isolated. We are craving that human connection. So yes, in the TED Talk, I said, it's not about you or me, it's about us together. In a given circle, you leave your individual decision, your individual vote in the back burner, because you are part of a group. The moment you join a given circle, you decide to be part of this collective and to put the interests of the group before yours, right? And I, I can tell you that even the way Philanthropy Together was started is totally around the collective. Like in my years at the Latino Community Foundation, I started getting connected to different people around the country that were doing similar work as the work that I was doing with different groups, right? The Community Investment Network starting Black and people of color giving circles in the South, APIP starting, giving circles with the Asian community, Amplifier with the Jewish community. And we all got together in 2017 to dream about what was possible for the collective giving field. And we embarked into a whole 12-month co-design project to create what is now Philanthropy Together. So Philanthropy Together is basically the brainchild of more than 100 people, right? And all of us left our individual voices, in the back burner to come together to an agreement to create something new. So I feel that in the Giving Circle, it's all about that.
Yeah, that's great. The whole movement feels very co-created, co-developed, and I don't know, community driven from the beginning. And it does feel like very organic too. I mean, I wonder if you can share a little bit about the history of, this is a little bit out of left field, but just the history of the community-based giving, right? That this stands on the shoulders of, because this isn't the first community-based giving model necessarily. It has deep history that goes back with many other models, right?
Totally. And I feel that it's really important to mention that giving circles are not new, are not American, right? Like, community philanthropy has been going on in communities all around the world for generations, right? And there are many different names around the world, especially, in communities, in indigenous communities around the world. There is some kind of community philanthropy, like the whole concept of people banding together, right? It's like we recognize that we cannot have that impact by ourselves, and it's better to do it together. At the same time, and something that I forgot to mention, and I see that there's a lot of women in this call, 70% of giving circles are led by women. and I'm going to tell you a little anecdote about this. There were many family foundations, right, in the 20th century. And some women were part of the boards of those family foundations, but the causes that they care about were not being funded. So a lot of why giving circles have always, getting started, and especially, this big explosion of giving circles, is because we are tired. We members of giving circles are tired of not seeing the issues that we care about being funded. So a lot of women, took, power into their own hands and said, you know what, it's fine that my family has a family foundation, but I'm going to get together with my friends and we're going to fund what we really want to see funded. Same with a lot of diverse communities, with the LGBTQ community. I mean, if you start like digging more into the funding gaps in our country, it's not okay. We all need to get involved.
And that's a great segue, Sara, into our next question, which is really about this working more in collaboration with communities, right? So in the TED Talk, you mentioned it should never be about parachuting into a community to save it, but really acting alongside in partnership. And so it's more about trusting those local partners and organizations than it is trying to save or anything like that. And so I wonder if you can share some actionable ways that people on this call can approach the work with their own giving circle to take more of that approach, that partnership approach with communities.
Yes, thank you for that question, because the last thing that we as giving circles want to do is to replicate those harmful practices that big philanthropy and traditional philanthropy have been doing, right? The big opportunity and potential for giving circles is to really break down power dynamics, to create deep relationships, not only among giving circle members, but with the groups that you are funding, right? And just understanding that who knows what the community needs are those leaders on the ground doing the work, right? The nonprofit leaders, the activists, the youth group that is actually doing the work. Giving circle members, we are donors. We don't know about the issues. We're here to learn from those leaders on the ground. So by creating a deep relationship, and how you create that, by just showing up, right? Go do a site visit when it's offered. Go to the events that that nonprofit organization is putting out. Talk to the people that work there. Talk to the people that the clients of that nonprofit. Like, really get to know them, not in a, oh my God, you need to tell me exactly how are you doing impact and give me your metrics. No, really with an open mind of learning and being excited and inspired, and how you as a giving circle member can pull these funds to support the amazing initiatives that are out there.
Yeah, I personally think this is one of the most exciting things about this giving circle model, is the ability to have impact through collaboration first, right? And working with these groups that are already on the ground doing this work, these experts who have been doing this for a long time. I think a lot of people want to make a difference, and the kind of de facto idea is, oh, maybe I should start a nonprofit. And if only we could get people to think instead, oh, maybe I should start a giving circle to work in partnership with all of these incredible nonprofits that we have. I think that would be really exciting. So just in talking about relationships, Sara, you talk about giving circles being all about relationships, and not only the relationships between members, obviously, but also between the giving circles and the nonprofits, like we were just talking about. And so I'm just wondering if you have any particular recommendations for people on how to build those bridges with the nonprofits out there. I know you just mentioned maybe attend some of the events or do a site visit if it's offered, but maybe don't request it if it's not offered, because that can just take precious time and energy away from the nonprofit from their actual impact focused work. But is there anything else that you recommend doing for people who maybe are just starting to get to know their local community through their giving circle and thinking about bringing a nonprofit to the organization, to their giving circle group? I mean, how to find them and start to build that relationship and that bridge.
Thank you, Emily. And I think, it's very important to do our homework, right? So many times we hear this question like, where do I find these grassroots groups? Mm-hmm. My God, just look in your backyard. I know that there are very, large organizations doing great work in the community. Yes, but don't stop there. If, the moment you pick an issue, if you go past the usual suspects, right? The big organizations, the well-known organizations that, the moment you go to the supermarket and they ask you, to donate $1 here or there. Go beyond those organizations. Find the ones that are in your neighborhood or outside of your neighborhood. A lot of times we get people saying, well, my neighborhood is not very diverse. Okay, go a little bit outside of your neighborhood and find those organizations. Bring those learnings to your giving circle. I think it will be really powerful. And I think someone just put it in the chat, right? To hear from leaders themselves. Invite a leader in your community to talk to your next, giving circle meeting, just to educate your members, right, around an issue. And something very important about that, pay people for their time. Don't say, well, I'm giving this person the great opportunity to be in front of our giving circle members. Yes, I know everybody is great, but pay people for their time. There are many grassroots nonprofits out there where they're all volunteer led, or they have 1 or 2 staff members that are, wearing 10 different hats. So be sure that you are paying people for their time.
I love that, Sara. And the last talk we had, actually, one of your colleagues, Kelsey, joined us, and she said something similar. And I thought one additional point she made around that is it doesn't always have to be money either. Just think about compensating them. Offer to volunteer for a few hours. Maybe you're really great at this or that, or you can help in some way. There are other ways to think about supporting them.
I love what you're saying, Emily, and that is key because and maybe everybody on the audience knows this, but giving circles is not just about your financial contribution, right? How can you give in all the many ways that people can give? You can give your time as a volunteer. You can give your talents. Like, yes, going and helping putting, the food pantry together is great, but think about the other skills that you have. You may be a lawyer, you may be an accountant, you know about social media or marketing. Those skills are always needed in a nonprofit. So offer your skills, offer your ties, right? How many doors can you open for a particular group? Because we are all part of many, many networks. So a lot of times, I remember with the Latinos in Tech Giving Circle, the grants that giving circle were giving to their community-based organizations were great, but the most important part was the access to those companies. What else?
No, that's great. That's perfect. Thank you. Well, so one thing that we've also heard, and I know you have as well, as we've been working together on growing this movement and talking to everyday people, right, about getting involved in being a philanthropist. I think that's a term that a lot of people don't necessarily relate to naturally. And so I wonder what you can share with our audience on, or what you would say to someone who says, I'm too young, or I'm not wealthy enough to be a philanthropist or part of a philanthropic movement. What do you say to those people?
You're never too young, or you're never, you're never, I'm not too wealthy enough. I mean, Emily, and we know her and we love her. We know this amazing young woman in Arizona who started a giving circle at 16 years old and now has 180 teenagers involved in a giving circle. They have pulled and given out almost $15,000. And now this young woman is training 10 other teenagers in different parts of the country, in Chicago, in New York, in California, that want to start giving circles. This model is perfect for young people. Again, because you may feel that, okay, what are my $20 going to make a difference? Yes, if you put those $20 with the $20 of another 100 people, right? And same with the concept of I don't have enough wealth. I'm going to share a story, and it's again from the Latinos in Tech Giving Circle. I met this young woman who was just out of college, starting in her first job in Silicon Valley, and she got a really good, job, but it was her first job. And she said, I need to send money back to my mom in Florida, but I am joining this giving circle because it's never too early to start giving back. Because if it wasn't for those community-based organizations like the ones that we're supporting now, I would have never gone to college and get a degree and be where I am. So I feel that a lot of people join this movement because they were recipients of philanthropy at one point. Mm-hmm. And that is very powerful. And for the people that you have not been a recipient of philanthropy, think about, and you kind of get you don't like the word because it's kind of clunky and it has very bad connotations lately. Go back to the meaning of the word. I mean, literally philanthropy means word of humanity. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, word of humanity, love of humanity. Sorry, English is the second language. Love of humanity. So when you go back to that, it's going back to basics, going back to your why.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's so powerful to me, all the giving circles we've seen, and we have over 700 circles now on the Grapevine platform, all different sizes and styles. The ones that from the young woman you just mentioned are on our platform too. So we've seen that group where each member is pulling $25 a quarter. So $25 a quarter, what is that? It's like $7 or $8 a month, a cup of coffee or two a month. We have other groups that are doing $5 a month. I mean, it can be small amounts, but you pool it all together and it really does make a big difference. So I have one more question for you, Sara, before we switch gears a little bit. And so giving circles aren't just about giving. I mean, we just talked about that. You talked about the 4 T's, but it's also about creating community around giving, right? And community building is tough. I mean, that takes time, right? It takes time, it takes energy, it takes empathy. And so I wonder if you can suggest to people an approach to this so that their giving circle doesn't become just about contributing, doesn't become just the transactional piece, because that's where I think this is so unique, but is also really about a thriving, rich network of people that are coming together to support each other and make this big difference together along the way. Any thoughts for?
Totally. And I cannot stress this enough. Keep it fun, keep it simple, keep it engaging. Mm-hmm. People are going to be part of your giving circle in their free time, right? They may be doing something different. They may be going to a yoga class, that may be having dinner with their families, but they decide to be part of your giving circle. So every time you are meeting in person or virtually, take some time to build that community. I mean, even if, you want to keep the meeting to an hour and it's going to be 75 minutes or an hour and a half, yeah. Don't think about those minutes to be wasted time, just to open up with an icebreaker. Take some time to learn something new every time about your giving circle members. Talk about your children, your pets. What are you feeling grateful for? What gave you joy? Who inspired to give? So build that community every single time. Also, if you are building this giving circle with people from your local community, don't have only the working meetings. So take some time to do a social, right? Go together and have lunch, or get together and go for a happy hour. You can even transform that social aspect of it in another way to raise more funds for your giving circle. Like, I knew of a giving circle that used to talk to the local bar, and on, you know, on a slow night, they created like the cocktail for the giving circle, and, you know, gave a few dollars of that cocktail back to the giving circle. So just think outside the box, and always be open to learn more from your members. Always ask them to invite someone new, and invite a friend, because that's how you start creating a bigger community.
Well, that's such a perfect note to end on. Inviting a friend, growing the community. So thank you, Sara, for that. We'll come back and do a Q&A with you. I've seen some questions come in, and I know we have some more that people shared as they were signing up. So, but anyone else who has questions, please be thinking about those. We'll get to those in a moment. But first, I want to turn it over to Gabby, our community manager, and she'll take us through this kind of fun experiment we thought would be fun to do with you all today, to do a little bit of a raffle to give away some of these donation matching funds that we have to support those people who are here, who brought a friend, who might be a friend, and the giving circles they're a part of. So Gabby, over to you.
Amazing. Yes, thank you. So the idea today was we wanted to encourage people to bring a friend, and that friend could win funds for your matching circle if you brought them. We're going to switch stuff up a little bit because it looks like we have one friend out there. So we're going to be donating some to them, but also want to make sure we use these funds in general. And we're so excited and happy that everyone is here. So I've actually put everyone's name who has put their name in the participants list on. We're going to also raffle based on that to our last two prizes. So if you're here and you're part of a giving circle on Grapevine, you will actually be given the opportunity to potentially win funds for your giving circle. So just to kind of kick things off, Anna Horst, you are a friend who's been brought, and if you don't mind unmuting, if you would like to, you have just won $100 for your friend's giving circle. So if you could just unmute and let us know who you're kind of playing for, we'd love to hear.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I feel like I just followed the directions here. So I am part of the new Lancaster County Women for Good group. Joelle it had invited me. So thank you so much. We're excited.
Amazing. That's so great. Thank you so much for coming. And we will deal with that on our side to make sure that those matching funds are sent over to you. But now we're going to, everyone who is here, I'm going to spin the wheel. So let me pull up my screen for that. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to turn up my volume a bit. This is for 200 in matching funds. Okay. Sarah McCoon, do you want to unmute quickly and tell us what giving circle you're a part of and have just won 200 matching funds for?
Excellent. Yes, this is Sara McMahon, and that is hilarious. I just joined probably 3 or 4 days ago with Seattle Women in Business for Good. So how fabulous. Thank you so much. They will be excited, and also like, who did this come from? I mean, from me, why? Like, they don't know me. They'll know you, obviously, but they'll be like, Sara McMahon, what? Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, we will do a post in your group about it. So everyone we'll know you soon in the group because you just won the group a bunch of money.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, so for our big prize here, 300, I'm going to spin the wheel now.
And we have Sara's team to thank for this fun wheel. This is an idea that we stole from the other.
Amazing. Okay, Lisa LaFrance, do you want to unmute and let us know what giving circle you're a part of?
I'm equally as shocked. I feel like I just won an Academy Award. This is so incredible. I am part of Impact the Palm Beaches, which is a collective giving circle, part of the larger Impact 100 global model that Wendy Steele started 20 plus years ago. And I've gotten to know Emily quite a bit over the last couple of years. And Sara, I am worshiping you from afar and hope to meet you someday. And all of the women and everybody on this call who's doing incredible work in the community, it is just such a privilege to be part of this whole movement. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking part and being a part of our experiment. And we're so glad we were able to give each of your giving circles some funds. So you will hear from me soon. I will help organize that. But I will turn it back to Emily, who is we're going to do the Q&A now with the audience. I might actually just kick it off just first because we do have oh, actually, you know what? We actually, I thought I had a question come through, but we didn't. So if you do have a question, raise your hand and unmute yourself. We will call on you. Just use the reactions icon in the bottom just to raise your hand like that. And we will unmute you and you can ask your question.
Thanks, Gabby. And while we let people have a minute to raise their hand and ask their question, I also had noted one down for you, Sara, I wanted to quickly follow up on. I wonder if, already getting together for a purpose. Sorry, now I'm trying to read my handwriting. Oh, it was advice for others joining a new giving circle. You had talked a little bit about having those, like coming together the giving circle through the collective model and how important it was to have those early conversations about values alignment and mission and all of that, right, as you're thinking about giving back. And this is just a question we've been getting quite a bit for people who are thinking about joining a new group and they don't know anyone yet or know very few people. And so they're kind of trying to ask, how do they as new members do that? How do they figure out and get comfortable, right? Because I think there are lots of people have different ideas about different causes and things that are important. So do you have any specific advice for a person who's thinking about joining a new group and is wondering that, how do I align with others and know that this is the right group for me?
Yes, great question. And you know, one of the beauty of giving circles is exactly that, right? That you have around the same table people that are very different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different, faiths. And but what is important is what the similarities that we can find in each other, right? Not what the difference and what separates us, but what makes us being together. And I think that it's very important to be clear and have an exercise, right? And if you are joining a circle and you are not, very, you're not sure if this is the circle for you, like I would just ask, like point blank to, some of the members, like, hey, are you interested in maybe getting into a formal conversation to talk about what the vision of our circle is, right? Or I'm passionate about X, Y, and Z, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I think it's always very important to be transparent, to be open, and also to have, again, the open mind and the open heart that you are joining this circle, and try to be open for healthy discourse and debate inside a given circle, because that is the thing that makes us grow as humans, right? Yeah, I saw that Barbara has her hand raised. Hi, Barbara.
Hi there. Well, come back to Dallas. You need to come back to this area. We missed you. I was just curious, when the groups are getting together and we're picking different charities, what are the characteristics you look at in the charitable organizations to make sure that they are going to use the dollars to the best of their abilities and check on their validity?
Yes. So we, I love the trust-based philanthropy project. And we can, maybe Isis, you can drop the link here, but it's all about how do you give with trust, right? Not giving blindly, but giving with trust. For me, something that is very important when picking an organization is to, apart from checking, of course, that they have programs that are impacting the community, and doing my homework by talking to people that have been served by that organization and checking their financials, is also checking that their leadership and their board are reflecting the community that they're trying to support, right? If you are going to support an organization that is supporting girls of color in a community, or women and girls of color, making sure that they have some women of color in the, in the board, on the board, or in the leadership. If you're supporting an organization that is helping women and girls, maybe pick an organization that don't have a bunch, only men on their board. So I feel, for me, that reflection of the leadership and the community that they are serving is key. And another part is, again, we know that Giving Circle grants are not huge. So finding organizations with smaller budgets where your donation is going to have a bigger impact. And also, in terms of, and this is on the reporting part of it, right? Instead of doing, or asking for a long report, just maybe get on a call. I know a lot of Giving Circles that just get on a collective call with the executive director and ask, hey, how did you do? Can you share a success story from last year? Did you have any challenges? Are there other programs that you would love to get funding for and you haven't? So kind of asking, how can you as a Giving Circle support them? And I am going to do a big shout out here at Philanthropy Together. We just unveiled our resource library. We have tons of links for different issues that you can face as a Giving Circle. Everything is open source, so please just go on it.
Perfect. And I see Isis already dropped that in the chat too. So
oh, great.
Who's interested, you can check out that resource library there. And then one other quick note on this too is that Kelsey from the Philanthropy Together team joined our last discussion on identifying nonprofit partners. And there are lots of different resources and approaches, including the trust-based philanthropy approach and others that were shared. So maybe we can drop that video, Gabby, into the chat too at some point if people want to check out that conversation.
I see Erica.
Yeah. Perfect.
Unmute. There we go. Hi. I had a quick question, and and on the topic we're discussing about selecting the recipients from the nonprofit perspective, you mentioned earlier some ways to kind of mitigate the stress or the taxing on the nonprofits who think they might get the funds. What are sort of other tips and tricks to keep that a positive experience, so you're not fostering competition, or you can kind of set expectations? I know that a few years ago, I was part of a nonprofit that was up for a $100,000 grant, and it became a huge thing. It was like applying for a grant with a lot of energy going into it, and it was challenging. So it sounds like you've thought through this, and I wanted to just, hear some tips and tricks on keeping that positive.
Great question, Erica. And we haven't found the silver bullet because it is hard, right? I feel that it's we're moving towards being less extractive and more, and to be in a better relationship with nonprofits. But consider not having an open RFP. I mean, when you do an open RFP, and this is request for proposals, right? You might get dozens of nonprofits applying for $10,000 or $20,000. So consider doing by invitation only. That way you can control. You can say, okay, if we have $20,000 to give and we are going to give 2 grants, why don't we just invite 4 nonprofits, right? So that way you are not, building these expectations in 20 nonprofits and only 2 are going to get something. Or not even do an application, do the homework yourselves. Create a mini team in your giving circle, and they are the ones that are going to find all the information without having the nonprofit having to fill out an application. There's a lot of information from nonprofits that is already available online. So go and fill out, the mission, and only go and call and ask for those data points that you cannot find yourself, right? There's also many smaller giving circles do something called secret philanthropist, when they don't ask anything from the nonprofit, nothing. So the moment they decide that the whole process is it's kind of behind the scenes. So the only nonprofit that is ever going to know that they're that they were picked is the one that it gets picked. So it's like a surprise. I would call you and say, Erika, we have $20,000 for you, which is a great surprise to have. And that way, Barbara, Gabby, no one else is expecting anything. So that's another way of doing it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
And I see here, and no pressure, but I see Lourdes, that Lourdes Hunter, I see you're here. And I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you could, just share your experience from the nonprofit, side, and, mention about biases and things. I think you would do a lot better job than me.
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement. The nonprofit industrial complex is something that is rooted in white supremacy, colonialism, and capitalism. We cannot look to the government or our oppressors to solve our problems. We have to think of solutions outside of the box. We have to think about how do we create opportunities within our communities that don't depend on government. It is what it is. And that's what we've been doing at Transformative Color Collective. Like, how do we create opportunities for our communities outside of systems of oppression? We live in a global society that is rooted in oppression. It is what it is. But I think what we should be focusing on is how we're creating opportunities within our communities for us to thrive outside of these systems.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. And yes, Erika, I feel that it's also, an open conversation with your nonprofits, right? With the people that you have give grants before, and just ask, right? What would feel not oppressive? What would feel no extractive? Do you want us to, talk about your organization? Do you prefer to speak about your organization yourself? I think it's always, again, something that I mentioned in the TED Talk. The moment we create relationships with our nonprofit partners, like we are seeing family members, right? You will call your cousin and ask point blank, hey, what would you prefer that we do? What would you feel good for you? So real human relationships.
That's most important. Like, asking the community what it is that they actually need, and not like having a curriculum or deliverables. Like, what is it that you need to thrive? And then providing that.
Totally. And yes, no to competition. No to competition. This is not Shark Tank. A Giving Circle shouldn't be Shark Tank ever. Yeah.
Yes, we all have a same common goal: liberation, freedom, happiness, and we all should be working towards that.
Thank you. Emily, I know we're coming to an end, and I just want to ask people, like, I know some of you are already part of Giving Circle, some of you are thinking about it. We have a Giving Circle incubator every month, and actually the one of this month is today at 4 Eastern. 90 minutes launchpad. It will be with some people from my team, with Isis and Ty and Kelsey, and it's fun, it's interactive. We can put the the link on the chat, but for we partner a lot with Grapevine, and our mission and Emily's mission is to see as many more Giving Circles get started in the country and the world.
Completely. Thank you, Sara. And I was just going to ask you if you had anything else you wanted to share. So that was perfect timing. And just, yeah, I guess just one last call, any other things, Sara, that you want to share, or advice for how our audience can get involved in the Giving Circle movement and help us grow this movement? Anything else that you'd like to ask or share before we?
The best advocates for this work are you. Like, people will get excited and inspired if they see you, someone that they love and they respect, be inspired and excited. I mean, I have all my friends in Giving Circles now. Why? Because, they see how passionate I'm about them. So just do it. Don't overthink it. It's not rocket science. If it's all about, doing it with your heart, being open to learning, being open to hear new perspectives, and just, again, like, give with trust, act in abundance, create a sense of belonging, and be, open for discourse. So yeah, thank you, Emily, for having me.